Nathan Fielder did something only he could do. He turned a CNN interview into a surreal, uncomfortable, unforgettable moment of live television. On a Thursday evening, seated across from Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown on the Situation Room, Fielder wasn't there just to promote a show. He came with a point, a plan, and a presence that threw the entire segment off balance. The man who once staged absurd business schemes in Nathan For You now faced the camera in full seriousness. But this wasn't your average comedy promo. This was part performance, part protest, and all Nathan. He called the Federal Aviation Administration dumb. Directly. On air. No irony. No retreat. And the room stiffened. Blitzer raised an eyebrow. Pamela Brown shifted slightly. But Fielder didn't flinch. He was talking about The Rehearsal, his HBO docuseries that blends documentary with performance art, a show that ended its second season not with a traditional climax, but with a daring aviation experiment. He had spent 2 years training. Not for a role, for a license. A real, legitimate commercial pilot license. Why? Because Fielder believed something few were even willing to consider, that communication breakdowns between pilots and co-pilots are a hidden, dangerous, under-discussed factor in airline crashes. To test it, he didn't create a metaphor. He flew a plane, A737, with 150 actors as passengers, simulating reality, pushing it, living in it. On CNN, he brought that energy. He didn't just suggest the FAA was missing the point. He said it flat out. He said they're dumb. The FAA, in response, issued a polite, polished statement. They said there was no data to support his claim. They said they monitor risks. That airlines act responsibly. Nathan heard the statement and dismissed it like a bad script. That's dumb. They're dumb. Not as a joke, as a challenge. Because in his view, the system was repeating the same logic that causes crashes, ignoring emotional truth in favor of technical procedure. In training, he said, they show a PowerPoint slide. A bland warning. If the captain makes a mistake, the co-pilot should speak up. But in real life, it's not that simple. There's fear. There's hierarchy. There's social pressure. There's doubt. And if we don't train for those things, emotionally, socially, psychologically, then the training fails. He wasn't talking like a comic anymore. He was talking like someone who had lived through a simulation, and realized the real danger wasn't technical. It was human behavior under pressure. Wolf Blitzer, a seasoned journalist, tried to steer things back. But Nathan was locked in. He wasn't breaking character, or maybe this was no character at all. This is what makes Nathan Fielder different. Where other comedians tell jokes, he builds realities. Where others deliver punchlines, he delivers environments, situations, conflicts, traps, and then he walks right into them. Flying a real plane to prove a theory about human psychology isn't satire. It's closer to philosophy, closer to sociology. It's a study with wings. And that's what The Rehearsal is. A high-stakes, high-concept investigation of what people do when reality is bent just enough to make them reveal themselves. This CNN interview wasn't a meltdown. It was an extension of the performance. He wasn't promoting the show, he was continuing it. Live, unscripted, real stakes. Calling the FAA dumb wasn't careless. It was calculated, a way to puncture the glaze of bureaucracy and force a real reaction. Because to Nathan, politeness is the enemy of truth. He wants to feel the discomfort. He wants to stir it in others. That's how we learn. And in that moment, millions of viewers saw something rare, comedy not as escape, but as confrontation. He didn't back down. He didn't qualify. He stood by what he saw in training. And if the FAA didn't like it, so be it. Fielder's genius isn't in being funny. It's in creating conditions where the truth, strange, painful, awkward, rises to the surface. By flying a 737, he turned a metaphor into an action. By confronting the FAA, he turned a performance into a protest. And by sitting in front of Wolf Blitzer in a pilot's uniform, he turned CNN into a stage. This wasn't just television, it was an interrogation, of safety, of systems, of silence, and the world watched, uncomfortable, confused, compelled. Because love him or hate him, Nathan Fielder makes you feel something real, even when everything else seems staged.